Greetings and salutations, gamers. Thank you for checking out Xbox Wrap Up, the Patreon Tier 3 show for the Xbox Expansion Pass. We appreciate your support. If you are watching over on YouTube later on, thank you guys for finding us. If you're watching when this first comes out, we appreciate your support. Thank you guys so much. This is a Starfield Spoilercast, where we are going to be talking about our experiences through the course of the campaign of Starfield. So please be warned, fair warned, warned off, and warded away that we are going to be talking about spoilers for our experiences of Starfield. I am joined not just by the intrepid Captain Logun, but also by Ellery, the Starfield superfan who did an incredible unboxing of Vasco, who is chilling to their left. I love it. Ellery, thank you for joining us today.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm super excited. I'm usually on the other end listening to you guys, so this is pretty amazing.
We are honored. Logan, this is our first community episode, right?
Yeah, we've never done anything like this before, and depending on SETI, we may never have to do it again.
That's true. That's a good point. Guys, Suddy's in a live chat right now that no one's going to be able to see, so we will be answering his questions at some point, but he made a big deal about not wanting to be on camera and or audio. Something about leprosy. I don't know exactly what it was. Anywho, guys, I have finished Starfield. Logan, you finished Starfield as well. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And how much time have you put into the game at this point?
God, that's a really good question. It'll come back to me and I'll boot up my Xbox and let you know.
No problem. Ellery, how about you?
I am doing that on the app as we speak.
Well, I can tell you guys that I am just under 60 hours. I crossed the 2-day and change mark for sure. Decided to roll credits after finishing a number of not just the main campaign, but like the secondary campaigns that you get from Freestar Collective, from Vanguard. I did all of the main ones. I got married, and it took me just under 60 hours. And then I rolled into New Game Plus because the game does a good job at giving you a reason to do that. Suddy says he's just under 5 days in his playthrough, which is pretty darn wild. Ellery, Logan, were you guys able to find your time in game?
Yeah, I have 7 days, 7 hours, and 49 minutes. Although those are, at any time when you're going through the Xbox app, it's slightly inflated. But yeah, that's where I'm at there.
Logan, how about you?
I have rank 18 among my friends with 4 days, 8 hours, and 6 minutes. Just above SETI at 4 days, 6 hours, 3 minutes.
Goodness. Okay. Interesting. I always wonder how long a pause menu factor, does it count that? Does it not? Does it count loading screens at not?
Oh yeah.
And I can tell you guys, as we start off here, at the moment, at the time of this recording, which is October 1st when we're recording this, I very much feel like this is my game of the year, and it is the least polished game of the year that I think I've had in a long time. I really love what Starfield comes together to be, but I do not necessarily think it does a lot of things great. It does them all really well, and they add up to something special, but they don't do them individually solo. That was my impression. Do you guys have similar or differing thoughts there?
Similar. I'm still debating on my game of the year so far, just because of personal biases. But yeah, this is oddly enough the best game that I've had, or one of the most fun games that I've had that is a full-on new launch this year. That it is weird. It's super weird that this is one of the best Bethesda games, but it's definitely not the best executed games. There's definitely issues with it, but the story, the characters, the worlds, everything is really fun. And I part of me wonders if that's because it's so fresh, or because it's really achieved something that I don't think we've seen quite in other games. And I'm kind of thinking the connections that I have to this game are because everything is set in with real galaxies that we have, with real locations that we're familiar with, as well as a lot of stuff that we're not, instead of just kind of everything's made up. And that's kind of interesting. like the history of this is really interesting.
Yeah, they definitely went out of their way to make the game big, which I think might be to its detriment in some cases.
Mm-hmm.
Ellery, where does this stand on your kind of game of the year list? Does it factor in there? Does it not?
It does. I think, with Logan talking about it being fresh, I remember back at the beginning of the year when Hi-Fi Rush dropped, and I was thinking this has to be in the conversation. And now this year has been so packed, and I haven't even played Baldur's Gate 3 yet. And obviously Spider-Man 2 hasn't even dropped, but it's my favorite game I have played this year and actually in a while. And so, yes, it is definitely up there, but also without playing some of the other games and probably not being able to get to them by the end of the year, it's hard to say for certain.
I'm inclined to agree, and I'm curious to know kind of when all the dust settles, when we're time removed from a lot of these games. I mean, like you said, Spider-Man's on its way. Alan Wake for me is on its way. Avatar might be a dark horse for me, just given the IP that I enjoy there. It'll be curious to kind of see where we stand, come January, February, where we're looking back. But specific to Starfield, I had a lot of trepidation in starting this one up because I am not a Bethesda fan. Suddy putting in chat that he is a Bethesda super fan. I know Logan's put some time into Bethesda games. He was big into Fallout 76 prior to this one, just in prep. I have never really enjoyed Bethesda games, Game Studios games, right? Like Skyrim, Morrowind, that's not my jam. Fallout, not my jam. And so I came to this one like, oh, I'm covering this for XEP. And when Logan and I recorded our last wrap up a month ago, I was playing a horror game. He was doing romances, I think is where you were in the game at that point, Logan. But it was such a different polar opposite experience to what I was having. And that scope to me is what makes Starfield so special. And again, I say to its detriment. For me, I jumped in very early on to the Terrormorph storylines. Where did that stand for you guys? Where did you kind of fall in that? Was that an early mission for you all? Did you get that mid game or late game, or at all?
Super late for me. I think we flipped, honestly. I think you and I like started on one end and came to the other, and just it was like the polarities were mixed because you started with all the horror elements and I started out with the romance and stuff, and then I ended with the horror and you ended with the romance.
That's true. Ellery, which storyline did you start with?
I actually mainline the main quest. So I had read earlier before the game even came out, or right when the reviews were able to be dropped for it, that to mainline it to get the most XP. So I'm like, okay, I am 100% going to do this so that I could start building out my skill tree. So I ended up doing that, and I hit the Ryujin quest, and there was one other one I hit before I hit New Game Plus. And now that I'm in New Game Plus, the last two I hit were the UC Vanguard and the Crimson Fleet ones. So I actually had the Terrormorph one later on.
Interesting. Now, I think before we continue kind of who got where, I should have started with this perhaps. What type of character were you guys trying to play? Because my whole goal was to be Luke Skywalker. I was a Jedi. I was a pilot. I was trying to be good, wholesome. I can never be the bad guy in games. I can never take advantage of people in games. But I also could not stand the whole like be a policeman storyline. I hated that one. So I'm curious, what kind of character did you try to be, Ellery?
So I went into it thinking, oh, I'm going to be this peaceful person. I am going to try not to use my weapons as much as possible. I'm going to focus on resource gathering and outposts. Let me tell you, I turned into the most savage pirate like 2 seconds into the game. And so I haven't even done anything with outposts. And I've barely done resource gathering. And so I went into it with one idea of how I wanted to play. And then all these wonderful options were there. And to be honest, like the first couple bad choices I made, I like I felt guilty, like in real life, about it, but that went over real quick. And then I'm like, let me just kill everyone and be a pirate. So
I tried to be stealth, or to do stealth like Batman-esque, because for a Jedi, combat is failure. And I was getting nowhere in terms of leveling up because I wasn't getting any kills. It takes forever to go through places in the very terrible stealthing that they have, where you go through the air vents that you can just walk through. I thought that was funny, but I got no XP, so I had to start murking people pretty quick to get any type of leveling up at all. Logan, who are you? Were you a pirate?
Oh, dude, no. I went contrary to popular belief. I didn't go pirate at all. In fact, I went full on cowboy ranger. I wanted to do like my kind of Firefly playthrough and, be like a Malcolm and, just wear a duster and go around the Freestar Collective and, play that Western lifestyle. And dude, I did it. It was great. I had a really good time with that. I did the Freestar storyline, became a ranger, did all that. And then after that, I wandered off and found the UC, and they had got me for something. I can't remember what it was, but they got me for something, and that dragged me into the pirate side of things. And so I ended up helping all of the UC like take down the pirates and stuff. It was very contrary to what I usually do. So I was really happy to kind of see like, this kind of fulfills exactly what I need to do. Or at least like what my character was like. And I didn't even touch the other two storylines because I was planning on saving those for the next playthrough.
I found it strange to like all three of us went in with one intention, and like
Don't forget
Suddy
Suddy.
casting. No, I've got him. Suddy also went in. He was trying to be a sniper thief, and it seems like we all went in with one thing in mind and exited that plan pretty early on. And like all combat plans, they don't survive the first shot. You don't survive the first punch. Goes out the window. But I found myself not sure how to play this game because I am so Bethesda games are so foreign to me. So you start off in this weird mining mission to touch this artifact, which I got to tell you, to skip to the ending, I was very disappointed to have such an epic beginning to a game. I really felt the ending let down, but to start off and you're on this planet, you're a miner, and then there's the potential for something to be coming through this void, and then these pirates show up. It was a very strange element. It was a very strange thing to try and figure out where to go, what to do on this one. Logan, when you started off, did you have any idea what you were in for?
Yeah, I mean, I'd played through Outer Worlds, so I had a feeling that we were going to get a lot of discussions and storylines. I wasn't sure how built out the reputations were going to be, like the different factions. Like with Outer Worlds, it's such a different bag because when you do something for one faction, it's not like you get a choice to do one thing or the other. It's like that actively creates hostility from the other team. So I was going into that kind of wondering like how deep was that system going to work, because I think it worked really well for Outer Worlds. It really kind of forced you to kind of take into consideration those choices, and they had a lot harder choices in that game than I think with Starfield. I think Starfield allows you to kind of do everything instead of locking you out of some stuff, to kind of like say like, hey, if you want to be a Freestar Collective, you probably aren't going to get along with a lot of UC people, except for certain missions, but then you can completely go do like a lot of UC stuff, and it doesn't really factor in at all. So I kind of knew going in like some of that stuff would be in there, but I wanted to see how expansive they went with it. Not to say that it was just a different expectation, but other than that, I kind of thought that we were going to be able to, after I think like probably after like your fourth planet, you start to notice the same kind of structures and layouts. I was kind of thinking that we would get some procedural stuff, but I didn't quite know like how much procedural stuff we would get. And that was kind of interesting to go into and find. But the story had no expectations. It was really, really amazing to kind of go through the entire story of what's going on. And when you finally figure everything out and you're like, oh my God, that's a really smart way of kind of building in a game mechanic that you usually only see as like a afterthought for games. And I usually don't do a whole lot of New Game Plus, but when you figure out like what New Game Plus is for Starfield, it's a much different bag, and I actually appreciate it a lot more.
I was the other way. I was so disappointed by the ending and by what it ramped up to, because there was this grand presentation of like there's something far greater in the universe, and we didn't encounter any alien races. We didn't encounter any big bads of any kind. And it was very easy to tell, at least for me, like I called it hours in. I was like 2-3 hours in. I'm like, oh, I'm the bad guy, I bet. Like it's gonna cycle and like human beings are the problem. And I was totally right in that. And like, at least in my experience, because I'm playing this horror game and having a blast, but the big bad at the end of with the artifacts and such didn't exist. And then you are introduced, depending on how far into the game you are, to the hunter and the emissary. And I'm like, these are me. Like, this is going to be me or someone like me. It's going to be humanity. And so to not have like an alien element to it, to not really get a true explanation, I felt like I saw that coming a mile away. But Ellery, I told you something similar in chat, and you were like, that's what I loved about it.
Yeah, it's so true. And I think Todd Howard recently said something that they had plans for this game to be played for years. And so when someone rolls credits, does that mean that's the ending? I don't think so. I think could perhaps be the beginning. We already know there's an expansion coming out. I imagine there'll be several more coming out, especially if they had already planned this to be a very long spanning game. And so I think that making it, not throwing everything at us all at once, was awesome. Only because it kind of keeps pulling you back in. Okay, where does the story go from here? So yeah, I actually loved the way it ended, and humans do tend to destroy everything, and so it's like, yeah, I like this.
Logan, when you found out who the emissary and the hunter were, and you found out what was going to happen with New Game Plus, were you perturbed, bothered in any way similar to me, or did you fall more into Ellery's camp?
No, I actually really liked it because both the emissary and the hunter, one of them was someone that I was not very connected to. The other one was someone that I was very connected to. And they were advocating different philosophies, one of kind of organization, governmental control, things like that, whatever you want to call it, people, being in charge as stewards of the artifacts. And the other was, a power creep. And creep is in like a weird guy, not like a creep as in like you're creeping up on something. And hearing both sides of the story, I could see, truths in both and reasons for what it was. And eventually I made my own choice, to decide like who I was going to side with, or what was going to happen there. And I was really happy to see that they wanted to kind of test you. They wanted to give you two paths, and you could make that choice to go down one of those two paths. And there's more to it than that, but at the end of the day, I liked that the idea of what it was kind of, it was like, the monster is the monster that you see is the monster that's in you, kind of thing. Like you project a lot of what you want through life, if you're trying to move forward and do stuff in life. And same thing with this game. What I wanted was to have it my way, and that's what I was able to do with this, as opposed to being forced to go down one path or the other, because neither one was the perfect thing for me. And I thought that as a result of that, I could make my own choices, and they reward you for that. And that's rare in an ending. You know, sometimes you're just given an ending and that's all you get to do with it. But sometimes they give you the opportunity to make your own ending. And with this, it was nice to see like what the results of that were. You know, it's kind of like I can't really think of a good. It's kind of like it's a weird comparison to me, but it's the Christmas story. No, with Ebenezer Scrooge. What's the name of that?
A Christmas Carol. Charles
Christmas
Dickens.
Carol. Yeah, where Scrooge gets taken through time to see like what their life was like and you know what's going on with them, and then they get to see like you know these are the outcomes. And this game does something like that I appreciated to kind of know like, okay, well the choice I made was one that I was actually happy with instead of you know something else.
I think I would have been so I appreciate the metaphor and the lesson that comes with it. I do acknowledge that, right?
Yeah.
But I think I've seen it before. Logan, you and I are big fans of Babylon 5. Like that literally happens to humanity. They burn out and have to restart, and a million years later they get it right. And so I appreciate the metaphor that comes with it. But to your point of kind of all the planets starting to look similar, all the structures starting to look similar, because my game began with the Terrormorph campaign, I went through this brilliant museum. I don't know if you guys experienced the museum. I think it was underneath the Vanguard. Yeah, Ellery, you did. Like, told you the history of the House Varun and Crimson. I think it was Crimson Fleet and all the different factions. And I'm like, oh, I am in for something. And I was thinking because they worshipped a serpent god that I was in for some sort of reptilian race. And I think I got my hopes up based on that, and to not experience anything in that vein, to not take the space battles to the next step, because I think the flying is wonderful. I love the space battles. To not take it to capital ships or to station battles, to not go to an enemy planet, to not go to an alien planet that is alien in terms of like who operates and runs it, kind of surprised me. Because if the lesson is the universe is so big, I felt there was very little in it. And so that I think that is what frustrated me there. But I did have an absolute blast with the Terrormorph campaign. I thought that was really, really good. Ellery, you nodded. So I assume you did the Terrormorph campaign, yes?
I did. And talking about when you're going through the UC Vanguard campaign, that museum was awesome. And what I loved the most is they brought up 2 locations during that, and I can't remember them now. And I wrote them down. I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to go to these planets and these cities and see what they're like. Well, it turns out during the UC Vanguard questline, you actually do go to both of those, which is really cool. I thought they set that up amazing, not only to give you a history of, you know, where we have been and how we got up to this point as humanity. And so I absolutely loved that. And I really enjoyed the UC Vanguard quest line.
Logan, did you like the Terrormorph campaign? I know it was at the back end of your game, but like, did you see this mystery museum?
I guess not, because you guys are talking about something. I mean, I found a spooky thing, but I don't think our spooky things were the same spooky things. My spooky thing was like 2 dimensions that had kind of like collapsed on each other. That's
in the main campaign?
Yeah,
the main quest line.
Okay, so I haven't done the horror stuff that you're talking about then, because that I haven't gone to a museum or done any of the terrormorphing stuff. I thought you guys were talking about the kind of dimensional stuff in the main campaign.
Well, I do believe you can walk through the museum without clicking on anything. So you can easily bypass it. So I'm not sure if you bypassed it or you stopped at like every single tablet and clicked on it and listened to what they had to say.
I'll be honest, I didn't even go into that UC building if I didn't have to.
Interesting.
I was a Freestar collector. I wasn't going to bother with it, man. That's not my bag.
Interesting.
I do have a question for you two with the UC Vanguard quest line with Vae Victis. Now, I don't. What's awesome about Starfield is that there are choices you can make of which side do I want to be on. And they have multiple choices throughout the game where you can do that. And so I want to know if you all chose to help Vae Victis or threw him under the bus, essentially.
Well, wait, Logan, do you even know who Vae Victis is if you didn't do the
That doesn't even
Terrormorph?
ring a bell, man. Is that the black dude
Ellery?
that's with the Crimson Fleet stuff?
No.
Oh. Okay. I have no clue who that is then. I was Freestar Collective, man. I was a cowboy. You weren't going to get me into that UC junk. Get that government stuff out of here. We got our own form of justice.
So Ellery, are you a Star Trek person?
I am not.
Okay. So for anyone that is listening and is like Logan and you didn't go to the Vanguard campaign, to me it was my favorite of the ones that I experienced in my playthrough. Vae Victis is Khan Noonien Singh from Star Trek. He is just this mastermind tactician who manipulates events in ways that are just so intelligent. In The Watchmen, Ozymandias, where he manipulates and tricks everybody into doing what he needs them to do years and years and years out. I thought that storyline was incredible. Vae Victis is the most evil genius whose brilliance cannot be undersold in this campaign. He was, I think, the best character that I didn't play as or companion with at any point. But I thought he was a really cool character, and he alone is the reason to play the Vanguard campaign in terms of writing. Ellery, would you kind of fall into that camp similarly?
Yeah, I feel like I had several moral dilemmas throughout the UC Vanguard campaign because, Hadrian gets wrapped up in all that as well with Vae Victis. And Logan, I don't want to spoil things too much for you going through it, but, it's like, what do I tell Hadrian? And then Vae Victis's story of, well, I was part of the UC, and after everything happened, which you learned through the museum, you get the backstory of Vae Victis through going through the museum. And and maybe it's his awesome manipulation, but it's like, okay, I feel bad. You were told to do something. You were part of UC Vanguard. Maybe you didn't make the best decisions all the way, but you were the one that got punished, even though there were so many people that could have also, you weren't the only war criminal. Both sides had war criminals, but you were the one that took the fall for it. And I actually chose to follow his storyline and help him out. And
really? You're a monster.
I did. I know it felt great. And so I went through, and what made me actually feel better is that everyone you're essentially going to assassinate used to work for the UC. They were part of the whole, war criminal group that fled. Vae Victis is the one that gave himself up, and they're all now working for pirates. And so it's like, okay, well, I actually don't feel so bad now that I've gone this route because, these people turned out to side with the pirates and are doing pirate things. But I had posted, and I don't know if anyone saw it, is Vae Victis a human mission board? Because you keep going back to him and he just keeps giving you people. And so I know, when I finished Ryujin, they have a mission board that you can go. The Freestar Rangers have a mission board in their bar that you can go to. And so I think the UC Vanguard, that's their mission board. At least that's how I saw it.
Okay, I forgot about those mission boards. Holy cow.
I love the mission boards because they gave me Crimson Fleet missions where I could just go pilot. But you've said Ryujin a few times. To me, that's that was a thing, like a side job that I didn't pick up. Is Ryujin a full storyline?
Yeah,
it is a full storyline. And how I got into it was you go to one of the Ryujin kiosks. There's one in New Atlantis. There's one in Neon. There might be others. And then you apply for a job. And that's how I started. I went to an interview.
See, that's what I didn't want to do. I was like, that's dumb. I'm my character's name is. I was like, I'm Luke Lore. I'm a pilot. I saved the Crimson. I stopped the Crimson Fleet. I'm not applying to a job, so I didn't do that at all. Tell me about the storyline. What am I missing?
Well, that's so funny because the job is like an administrative position, so that's how they like put it out there.
That
and then
sounds awful.
Corpo life.
Yeah. So you go through it, and then they're testing you, and then you pass all these tests, and then it's when you think of the dirtiest corporate musings and things that go on, that's what it is. So you're part of this corporation's dirty side, taking care of all their dirty laundry is essentially how I can explain that.
Elon Musk got it.
Yes, it's like, oh, we're working for Twitter. Is it a talking storyline, or is it a fighting storyline, or a bit of both?
It's actually a picture book. You have to flip the page while you sit in game. It's pop up.
But I'm asking because Ellery consistently puts games in our Discord that are not ones I'd ever play, but you're always consistently talking about the writing and the storylines. You play such different types of games, so I'm curious: is it a combat style thing, or is it like espionage? Like, what's the jam?
Luke, just ask the question: do I have to read?
Well, I think that it doesn't have any additional story than any of the other faction quest lines. The cool thing about the Ryujin one is I stumbled upon, and I forget what their name is, but a neon gang, and I infiltrated their gang hideout, and I would have never had access to that just walking around Neon. And so I got to experience just infiltrating that part of it, and again getting a little more lore of Neon and the game as a whole.
That's cool.
Logan, did you do this, Logan?
No, I didn't. I'm saving it. I'm saving it for my next playthrough. That's why I was surprised when Ellery brings up the mission boards, because honestly, like, I forgot those things were there, man. I genuinely forgot. There was like, oh yeah, there's mission boards. I got too many missions as it is.
Huh.
Well, I'm planning next playthrough. I'm probably going to go through UC after I do the Ryujin stuff as like a corporate guy who got sick of all the bureaucracy and stuff that's in there, and move over to government jobs where I can do some good. So that's my character's next storyline.
Suddy said he got a job at Ryujin, did the first quest, but it was corporate espionage, and he was in Freestar Space, so he just put it on hold to do the main line. I would not be enticed to do a corporate anything in the game. There was so much talking and reading that I was just like, yo. And I did a lot of reading. I didn't do a lot of skipping of dialogue. But it started to wear thin in some places. Now, you guys bring up Neon. I love that city. That was one of the best areas of the game. Unfortunately, I had a mission get bugged there where I couldn't get to. I had to go see Briggs, but a door was locked, and a lot of people on Reddit had the same problem. But I thought that area was really cool. Like, it was just a really beautiful city. So, Logan, you're shaking your head no?
Nah, I disagree, dude. I've been in Night City. There are so many better neons.
See, that's not fair. It's not fair to do. We're judging it right now. I'm talking about in this story.
I mean, if we're talking about in this story, then I think New Atlantis is a much better place. I think it's more fleshed out. I think it's just a little more scaled around like what a city could be. It's like that futuristic picture, and Neon is just it's gritty and dark and stuff, but it's like 2 levels and 2 sections, and it's like, I don't know. I was expecting a lot more verticality than like the 2 floors that it is for this big settlement out in the middle of a chemical sea.
Did you have to go? Go ahead, Ellery. Go ahead.
Sorry, Logan. That's so interesting because Akila City is my favorite. So we all have 3 different favorite main cities.
I do love Akila, but it's too small. Akila City needed to be like
go ahead,
huge, man.
I cut you off, Logan. Say what you said again, bud.
No, I was just gonna say, like, I think Akila City was great. I wanted it to be bigger. Like, I wanted it to be a lot. It feels really, really tiny, and I love the atmosphere of that kind of Western front storefronts look. Like, you got your open bar with an actual like kegs and stuff over there. You've got like your normal store, and then like up towards the middle, you've got this giant Tower of Justice that's like the center of the city, and that's really cool. I just wanted it to be like a lot bigger, kind of how New Atlantis is, but that's just for a company like the Freestar Collective to be such an antagonist to UC Vanguard, and you see what UC Vanguard has. It seems weird to me that the Freestar Collective isn't bigger in general.
I could not stand Akila City largely because it was the home of Sam Coe, who might be the single most obnoxious, terrible character of. First of all, he had a cowboy hat, and that was stupid. You don't need that in space. Second of all, his annoying daughter was like, I enjoy books and reading, but she wouldn't shut up. So you couldn't give her books. I was like, I went and picked up all these books. I probably had 100 books, and you couldn't give her any of them. Then, and I want to be very clear, my game killed Sam Coe, and it became my game of the year. He was the one that died, and I was like, yes, yes,
ridiculous.
And then he showed up again as one of the people, and I was like, damn it, he's back. Oh, Sam Coe was swimsuits so
from the Paradise Island just so I could put that man in a bathing suit. Someone who is like a paragon of justice and virtue here, like for the Freestar Collective. I'm like, no, these trunks are mine. I got to see Sam Coe in some swim trunks.
Wait, could I have dressed Sarah Morgan, my wife?
Yeah.
Could I have dressed her in a bathing suit? I'm asking for a friend. It's not for me.
Andrasia? No, Andrasia? What?
Andrasia is Sissy Jones' character.
Sorry, Andrasia died in my playthrough very early on.
Mm-hmm.
I took her dress and then married Sarah in the dress because I was so frustrated that the game killed off the one person that I was trying to romance.
Savage, Logan.
Damn.
We had the memorial service for her and everything, and guess what Sarah was wearing?
That's some House of Cards stuff right there, Logan.
Paragon of virtue, I tell you.
Did you see it? Suddy said Sam Coe is a manly man. Most annoying for me is I think he means Matthias. Matthias. He was the one in the dumb hat, not the cowboy hat, right?
He was
yes.
the religious
theologian.
Yeah. That's a better
way I wanted to play a shooty game, and he was a little too talky for me. I never once took him out of the lodge. He stayed in the lodge for me.
So much disdain for anything that drags your attention away from pulling a trigger.
Yeah. Yeah. That is true.
What is this child doing here? I can't shoot. Stop talking.
I really like books. I got all these books.
And that was a thing that I was like a little annoyed with. I was like, okay, I really want to give her all these really cool old books, and I can't do any of them. And I'm like, what is going on? Why can't I just I have like a table of books for her to read, and she's talking about doing haikus, and I'm like, honey, I'll get you haiku books. Just take them.
I just feel like they should have PlayStation in the future, and they didn't seem to. Xbox in the future, they didn't seem to. It was very strange. Can we talk about the crafting and the building? Because I think the loot is terrible in this game.
You've never played Bethesda game.
But I didn't build anything, and I was just like, why am I picking up fiber wire? Why am I picking up cobalt and stuff? So as a non-builder, non-crafter, non-any of that, I didn't find any use, and it was just an obnoxious element of the game for me. And it sounds like I'm complaining about the game. I'm not. I just mean like that didn't factor into my playthrough. But Logan, you created stuff, and Ellery, I don't know if you crafted or made anything.
Yeah, I found the the talent trees in the game are so restrictive when it comes to playing through. Like, I'll be honest, man. I took the perk to heal so that I could get deeper into some of the modding ability perks. I didn't heal 100 times in the game. I think I was very confused about this. Like, I ate a lot of food, but I didn't eat like a ton of food. I used med packs most of the time, but I couldn't even make it in past the first tier on that medical talent to get any of the mods. So I didn't like mod anything, but I did build a couple bases and some like refineries that I had on planets to kind of ferry very specific types of ore and gases to my main base, which was called West Virginia. And it was...
Why was it called West Virginia? That just sounds weird.
Well, because I was playing Fallout 76, and that's where Fallout 76 takes place.
That does not jive with all the jokes I've made about West Virginia in my life.
No, maybe...
I was just confused.
It's fine. Get some therapy. So I did a lot of like shipbuilding too. I got heavy into the shipbuilding stuff, and I made a ship that was just it was long. It was just very long, and every time I wanted to do something to it, I just had to keep making it longer. And then eventually, I made it twice as wide, and now I have a really long, twice as wide ship. That is just it's the stupidest looking thing, but it serves a purpose. I can't even like I can't get myself to walk through that thing. Every time I go back to the back hatch, I go to cockpit. Every time I get into the cockpit, I exit the ship. I do not walk through my actual ship because it is so ridiculously long, and I need to figure something out with the new playthrough. But I love it. I think they did a good job
during the you saying that 15 times over. I was really counting on that.
No, that's fine.
No, none, not a single one. Ellery, what about you? Did you craft, create, build?
A little bit. So like I said earlier, I thought I was going to get all into outposts. I think what was very overwhelming was how many options you have in the skill tree. There is so many things there. And so when I was going through the main quest line at the beginning, I wanted to put it all towards weapons and going through that. And so I actually used the research bench to unlock weapons mods. And so I ended up, the weapon I liked the best was the Urban Eagle. And I ended up modding that completely out, which was awesome. But then, I didn't have these skill points to use on other things because I think it's very restrictive if you don't have a lot of skill points in a particular thing. So outposts, for instance, or some of the other crafting things. I haven't even made any food, and that's a whole nother thing I haven't even dove into.
Do you want to?
I do. I absolutely do. And I don't remember which one of you said that, but you were talking about the loot. Maybe it was you, Luke. Mm-hmm. What I ended up doing is I don't pick anything up unless it's a med pack, a trauma pack, or credits. That's all I do now.
What?
Same.
And well, here's the thing. There's a bug. If you go to Akila City, I don't remember what the dude's name is that has the general store. You look in the puddle and you can just take everything you need. And so I'm like, I'm a pirate, I'll steal. And so I just go to the puddle, get the resources I need.
No.
And then I'm just getting in character. So I figured that's what my character would do.
Cheating. I would understand if you like walked into the back of the building, knocked the dude out, and then like tossed his body and then just started shoving stuff into your pockets, but looking down into the ground, into a puddle. Really?
I have no shame. I have absolutely no shame.
See, I don't even know about the puddle, but I only pick up credits, trauma packs, emergency kits, and med packs. That's the only thing I pick up ever because I just don't care about all that other mess. Occasionally, I'd pick up like a suit or something to sell it, but I only ever used the one suit that you can get in the basement of the lodge. That's the only one the entire
You cheated
time.
as well.
I think I did, but I didn't know that I cheated.
Yeah.
Somebody was like, go, just click this. You can click through it. And I was like, oh, okay. And I didn't register that we weren't supposed to because I was so naive. And I was like, oh, Bethesda does this in their games. I thought that's what it was like. You're supposed to break it a little bit. I thought that was the jank portion joke. That's how naive I was. But that's the only suit that I used, and it's not even that great. But because I mean, it just wasn't. But I found that the loot just meant nothing to me because I didn't craft, mod, or build anything. So loot was a large waste of time for me, you know. And so it meant nothing to me in the game, and yet it's such a key element and component to so many other people's playthroughs. Yes, no, someone jump in.
I was fine picking up stuff, man. I built my ship and I had to. It forced me to start like playing around with the ship stuff because everything that I picked up needed to go somewhere, and I wasn't ready to delve into all of the crafting that goes with outpost building, and that's where a lot of that stuff is required. So I was gathering like a freaking squirrel, saving up for winter. And before I know it, I'm like, well, I got to upgrade my engine. I got to upgrade my storage. I got to get a bigger ship. I got to get better grav drive. I need a better reactor. And that all was stuff that pushed me into areas that I wasn't comfortable with. And I had to do a lot of like digging around to try and figure out like how to manage that. But at the end of it, I feel like I have a stronger grasp of how those systems work now that will transcend to next playthroughs, and I'll have a better idea like, okay, I really don't need 1800 zero wires. I just need like 7, and I can ignore most of those. And having more and more time with it has helped kind of know like, oh, okay, I know I have a bunch of these. I don't really need to loot everything. I just need to know a couple of the things that I need to loot for, and a lot of the minerals for locations and stuff.
I think I would have been a squirrel had it not been for encumbrance. And I think that really steered me away from that, especially because I used fast travel a lot. So when I got done with a mission, if I was able to, I would just fast travel right back to my ship to save time. And so not being able to do that when you're encumbered, then it's like, this isn't worth it to me.
That was where I used my companion a lot. Like anytime I went out with everything, my companion had nothing on them. I would always like take all my resources and I would put them for the resources. And then whenever that was done, I would go and have all of my resources transferred from my companion to the ship. And that way I could transfer like, and I honestly like the fast travel to the ship is like the greatest thing. I absolutely love that. I do that in New Atlantis all the time because going around New Atlantis takes forever because of how big it is. So I will constantly just like do the scanning and then look for wherever my little ship emblem is and then just fast travel from the lodge directly to my ship.
We have not talked about the abilities that you gain, the like special abilities that you can pick up from the temples, from I mean, we haven't talked about the temples in any way, shape, or form. I really thought that was going to go further, and I guess that's part of the main story that I was still disappointed from in some senses. I thought we were going to do more with that, but I suppose I might only have myself to blame there because once I discovered the force push, I didn't really care for any to even look into the other abilities because you could only use one at a time. And so I didn't even bother with other abilities, but I did go and seek out other temples. But I didn't find them all that fun because you just kind of get there and you float around till it stops spinning. Am I being pessimistic on that?
I feel the same way. I have only unlocked the ability to change or manipulate the gravity. And I honestly, it wasn't anything that it wasn't more fun than just straight up going in guns blazing for me. So I never used it. But Jam Pack Sam was talking about how there's an ability you can unlock that slows down time, and it sounds like a game changer. And I'm like, okay, maybe I should go back to these abilities because that seems pretty cool.
I didn't know about that ability. So like that does sound like a game changer. That does sound like one. Logan, which ability did you use or not use?
I got the one that kind of does the gravity thing, but the only other one that I went and got was one that turned out to be a precognition. So I was actually able to read what responses were going to be to all of my dialogue choices right before like a dialogue conversation. And that made a big difference with a lot of the conversations that I had, especially on kind of that double agent stuff for the Crimson Fleet, working for UC Vanguard and stuff. Also going into persuasion too, it helps with that. So you get a little bit more of a boost with persuasive talks and stuff. Because a lot of my conversations, I wanted to do as kind of like, who could I persuade to do what? That was one of my main goals. You know, if I'm going to be a pillar of virtue and justice, I have to be a good mediator as well too. And one of my first things getting into the Freestar Collective was to negotiate a bank heist. And I was like, well, this is perfect for me. This is how I want to play it through. So that was something that when I found that ability, I used that all the time. But that was pretty much it. I did not find a whole lot of use out of those powers, but I think a lot of that's just because a lot of those powers, I think, were so hidden that if I had seen like the full spectrum of what powers you could obtain, I probably would have tried to look for some that I would like to actually use and then actually go searching out for those.
I think that's a good point. Study noted that he found temples to be cumbersome and not very fun. He has 9 abilities, but he uses detect life more than anything. I'm inclined to agree. Like I have a bunch of abilities, but I don't really use any beyond the one that I stuck with, which was the force push. But if I had an idea or I was shown like these are the options, I would have sought out more or less depending. But I didn't really feel like there was much element of discovery. I also think, you guys talked about fast travel and how useful that was. I would argue the game is in desperate need of vehicles because sometimes you're just running from temple to point, and because a lot of it's procedural generation and it's not curated, there's not a lot of interest point, or there are not a lot of interest points along the way that are actually interesting. I remember being on one planet where I went to this interest point and it was a crater, and I was like, oh, neat, glad I did this. Like I ran out.
Bro, that's space.
But see, that's kind of that goes back to my
nothing
with the storyline. There was no other species, right? There was no other thing. And it's that was, I think, the disappointing part, because for all the loading screens, for all the time spent in screens and menus to get to go places, there wasn't much to see. And so I was frustrated by that. And it's funny because this is my game of the year and I'm so critical of it, but I just took such joy in certain parts of it, and I found other parts so cumbersome that it has me in these polar elements. The ending just soured stuff for me, I think.
Interesting.
Yeah. Oh, maybe.
I think the action definitely slows down in the end, and I think that for something as coveted as Unity, I think I would have liked to have had a little more of a bombastic venture to it. It didn't feel like I had much resistance at all. In fact, there's some sections of the game, I'll say the Crimson Fleet felt far more epic than the Unity experience.
Agreed.
I will say this. I agree with that on the surface, but I will say when I got to the Unity, I have never experienced in any other part of the game the emotional strife of, do I go or do I stay? Because I didn't know what I was walking into. So I played the game without any spoilers. And so I'm like, what will I not be able to do? And so it felt like this really heavy decision that I had to make of, do I stay? And I ended up staying and playing tens of hours before going back to the Unity.
Really?
And so I felt, even though it wasn't boombastic, it weighed heavily on me, that decision, which I really appreciated.
That decision was impactful. I will argue that, because I had just gotten married to Sarah in that timeline, and then that decision was kind of faced me, and it's like, okay, am I leaving my wife to go on this grand human experience, human adventure? And because I married Sarah, like, was she going to do the same to me? And the coolest part about going to the Unity is that you see the results of your actions. That was, I think, my favorite part of the game, save for the Crimson Fleet battles. I thought I loved seeing the results of my actions. But it felt like there were more choices to be made. Like, I didn't do it all, which was also, and there's a lot of open space in that spot. Did you guys feel similarly when you saw the results of your choices?
Yeah, I was really happy with what happened. It was positive to see like the changes and stuff. By the time I was done though, I treated the Unity as kind of a stewardship. You know, it was one of those things where I was going to try and sacrifice who I was for the sake of a better future for the next universe. And then seeing, you know, how positive things were as a result of that choice, it solidified, you know, my resolve. I felt far more comfortable with making that choice, because I knew, you know, Andreja died, and knowing that going into, you know, Unity, I was going to be afforded another opportunity to save her. Even though I had already like married with Sarah, I knew Sarah was aware of the choices that we were both making. So I wasn't worried about what her life would be, because she would have made the same choice I was.
Were you guys caught off guard by the lack of, this sounds weird, but like, I married Sarah, but I did not feel like my character was intimate with Sarah. I don't mean that in just a physical sense, but like partially a physical sense. I know people would joke about that, but like, the characters don't interact, they don't hug. You never see them in like an intimate moment, a romantic moment. It's a dialogue choice that says romance. It's like, I love you, or it's flirt. And the flirting, by the way, was creepy, because the flirt was like flirt, and it's like, I love you forever. And it's like, whoa. So I did not feel like romance was handled very well. Um, and yet I was still like, Sarah all day. That's my boo for some reason.
That's interesting. I didn't choose any romance pathways.
Mm-hmm.
I originally picked introvert as one of my starting traits. And I'm realizing that was perfect, because the more time I spent with any companions, it's like, you are so annoying. I just want to be with Vasco or be with myself. And so I never ended up wanting to be stuck with anyone. I don't even know if you can like divorce if you make that choice or anything. But
you can.
So yeah, that is amazing.
That is a nice feature.
Yeah.
Interesting. I also was annoyed by people, but Sarah was.
Definitely not Sam Coe.
Sorry, Logan. I'm cutting you. I'm fucking eat it.
You guys,
did I cut you off, Logan?
on companions? Ellery, not so much, but I don't know, man. I kind of I feel like the veil was pulled back, and I saw the man behind the curtain when I started to hear the same dialogue with a lot of those companions. So at that point, I just kind of said, "Oh, that's a game," and that's it. It was kind of frustrating, because if I'm going to be spending, you know, what is it, 80, 90 some hours with this game, and I got to listen to folks saying the same old thing over and over and over again. I definitely was like, I feel maybe I've been playing this playthrough too long. Maybe I need to push through and get done with it. But honestly, like to speak to your point, Luke, yeah, the romance in this game is not on the same level as like what CD Projekt Red can do. I think that's one of my biggest criticisms is that Bethesda games are so similar to themselves because of like the creation engine that they use, that they have their style, and that is their style. And compared to even just like Baldur's Gate 3, there's definitely some growth for Bethesda as a studio and the engines that they use to try and get something that is a little less uncanny valley for me. I want to, if I'm going to have relationships in the game, I want them to feel like they are impactful or felt. I think CD Projekt Red and Larian do a really good job with that. And you know, a good place to kind of note like, hey, this is where I think Bethesda's weakness is. Their RPGs are great. I think they've got great storytelling. They've got great world building. This is an area that I think they could grow in.
So Suddy in chat said that when waking up from sleep, Sarah would wake up beside him. He also married Sarah. Implied sex here or there, like between the two. And I didn't even know you could sleep. I was like, oh.
Sleeping gives you an experience boost.
Huh. I'm only level 41. Maybe that's why I'm only level 41.
41.
Where are you sleeping at, guys? The lodge was the only option I saw that at. And I was like, oh.
The Frontier has a bed, but also I believe you can sit in any chair and it does the same thing. So if you have an option to sit, you can do that. So any chair.
Suddy's familiar with passing out in chairs. So I'm sure he's used to that.
As he's on dialysis right now. Okay, so that's interesting. And like the idea that he wakes up next to Sarah does have some implication of like it's an actual romantic partner. So there's something there. There's something
about
there.
It's about as much as like you waking up next to your cousin. Like there could be so much more dialogue that happens, but it's just a blank. Like they're just there and you're there. The sheets are already made. You're already in your clothes. There's like nothing to indicate anything outside of like, oh, that person happened to be passed out in the same bed that I was passed out in.
Gotcha.
I wonder if we got set up with some expectations here, because I remember when the rating dropped and it was mature, a whole thing about jetpack sex blew up. And so I wonder if everyone had these expectations being put onto the romance side of the game.
Maybe so. I think having played Cyberpunk last year for like the 1.5 or 1.6 update, probably seeing the memed thirst of Baldur's Gate, which I've never played, and the idea of like a romance option, I guess because it's space and Mass Effect, maybe that was an element of it for me. But I kind of go back to this idea that Starfield does so much, and it has this effort to be massive and big and expansive that you miss key elements. You have a romance partner, but you never touch them, you never hug them, you never kiss them. You have space travel, but you never traverse the actual space to planetary boundary there. It's always a fast travel loading screen. You have these elements of the game, but they're implied or barely touched on. And I wonder if that's kind of the case there, is that they chose like a breadth of options, but it all surface level or seeming surface level. And then there's the other point, like maybe it's because I didn't decide to craft or I didn't decide to build a base that I didn't get a level of depth in another, in their vision of what they wanted to be, deep and impactful. And so really curious to see if what we're seeing right now is just the 1.0, right? Is this truly the beginning? Because I know that mods are coming. I know there is an expansion coming, but like this game is not broken by any means. But like, will it have a Cyberpunk-esque 1.5 plus update, 2.0 update that changes aspects of it? Because I would love to see some of these systems more fleshed out. more cleaned up, less loading screens per se. And I don't know if that's just me, because I feel like I've just been critiqued for an hour, which I think is not how I feel about the game. But there's a lot that I think needs to be improved as well.
Yeah.
Am I making sense to either of you?
Well, it's funny because a lot of the criticisms that I think a lot of folks have are already fixed on PC through modding. Nexus Mods has been absolutely amazing. They've done such a good job, just UI based alone, but this game will kind of persist, and much like we see with Skyrim, there's going to be full expansions that come from the community. I would not be surprised if a lot of the loading stuff that we see now can get bypassed through using the creation engine and other people just changing the code and allowing you to edit that. So who knows? It's one of those things that I think if I was Bethesda, I would take some notes from CD Projekt Red. CD Projekt Red had a lot of issues when it launched. A lot of the modding community fixed a lot of the issues. And as a result, those people got hired on. And we have Cyberpunk 2.0 because of the modders. They brought in their expertise, their knowledge, and their time spent on modding the game, then helping the team actually get those mods integrated in a more natural state. And as a result, we have a much better game 2 years, 3 years later, and I think that Bethesda could and should do that as well. There's very talented coders out there, and I think there's a lot of work that could get done to Starfield beyond just what's already been done to see through to that 5-10 year lifespan that Bethesda wants for this game.
I can 100% see where you're coming from, Logan, and there are a handful of critiques I can shoot out. I think, like, for instance, I just finished this afternoon the Crimson Fleet questline. And obviously, we said at the beginning, I am days into this game. And I think if I have finished up everything that this game offers, I think those complaints or those criticisms would be in the forefront of my mind. And I think I don't care right now because there is still so much I haven't done that is keeping me engaged and not focusing on when are they going to fix this, as opposed to if I had finished everything and I'm in New Game Plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, going through the same things and going through the same problems or the things that I don't like. That's a drag.
Yeah,
that's
definitely.
A good point. That was a really good point. I'm in the point where now, like, okay, so I hit New Game Plus 1 and I'm going to put it down. I'm going to put it down for a bit in favor of some of the other stuff that I haven't experienced, to come out. Whether it's Assassin's Creed, Alan Wake, Spider-Man. But I want to go back because this was such a special experience for me. Not having played a Bethesda game, not really having expectation to like Starfield, and then to get in there and just, like, the first 10 hours were a little choppy, but then something spoke to me. It was the museum. It was the Terrormorphs that got me, and being scared in that game and then flying in that game, knowing that I missed a really great storyline with, what was it? Ryujin?
Ryujin Industries.
Yeah. Knowing that I missed that, knowing that I had a bug that stopped me from finishing something in Neon. I want to do that. I want to see that. And I want to continue learning what there is to learn. And to the game's credit, its New Game Plus system lets you do that. But I am curious, like, do I want a new story? Like, would I romance someone different? I don't think so. That feels weird to me. Like, am I supposed to make different choices? If so, I think that's the whole emotional draw of the game. Like, if I make different choices, are they my choices? Like, are they mine? That's the Matrix, like, free choice, free will. If you know what's going to happen, are you choosing something different, or are you meant to be on a cycle? I really do love that emotional element of it, which is something that you kind of touched on earlier. I'm really curious. Like, I don't want to marry Andrasia. I want to marry Sarah. I don't want to save. I don't want Sam Coe to be the one that lives in the next one at the risk of losing somebody else. And I don't even mean that as a joke because I hate Sam Coe, but like I don't want to lose another life. You know what I mean? Because to me, Sam is dead. So if Matthias dies or if Andrasia dies or something, it's like I fail them now in this new universe. That's how it will feel, I think.
That's fair. I mean, honestly, and it's one of those things that just depends on where you're satisfied with the game. A lot of folks are going to play through the main game, never touch any of the side content, and that'll be a good enough story for them. They may come back and decide to try some of that other content, and they might get surprised. They may find themselves digging into relationships that have conversations that change your thoughts on how you perceive, your outcome at the end of the day. And there's not really a good way to explore that in one playthrough.
I also think this game sets you up with the Unity and essentially starting over again to be able to make different decisions. And then on your following playthrough, make different decisions. I'm really interested in seeing what happens when I make different decisions, just because I'm curious.
See, you were able to be a monster. I don't. Every time I try to do something that Luke, because my character is Luke lore, right? I know a lot of people like to gender swap or to create like a unique character that is so special to them. They'll race swap themselves. They'll put themselves into a role playing element. Every time I'm in a game where I can create a character, I create me, and it's me in that world, what I would do. So I don't know what choices differently I could make because I don't want to be anyone but me, and I made my choices in mind. Does that make sense?
That totally makes sense, and I'm going to get a little philosophical here. So, I obviously both of you know I'm trans and non-binary. I go by they them. I made a character who's very female presenting. So I don't see myself in them at all. The same would be true if I made a very male presenting character. So I feel like I have more freedom because I am not them to be able to act, because that's not me. That's someone else dealing with all these consequences.
Huh. That's both liberating and terrifying. Huh.
Yeah.
So that's not you by any means. It's not even, do you feel like it's a projection of you in any way or an aspect of you?
No, because every time I think of my character, I name them Jade. That's Jade. I think of them as Jade. I don't think of what am I gonna do here. So it's like I am like physically and emotionally removed from this character.
Logan, when you create a character, is it you? Is it an alternate version of you, or is it unique to the game? Like when I'm Batman, I'm Batman. But when I can create a character, it's me.
Yeah, typically I'll create me. Like Sea of Thieves is definitely like that is me to a T. Like the persona that I have in Sea of Thieves is the one that if this was the Matrix, that would be my mental projection. I tend to do that a lot with games, and I tend to play through them with my morality to varying degrees. Because I don't think there's ever been a game where I can't murder someone that I get to be myself as. So obviously have to be okay with murder to an extent in video games to be able to do that. But that kind of, a can of worms aside, I generally go with male front facing characters and male voices that try to come close to what I look like for the most part. And a lot of that's just kind of seeing if I can get something that replicates what I look like, as opposed to preset 1 pretty boy or preset 2 pretty girl kind of thing, and see like where that goes. Like my Hogwarts Legacy character is probably the first game that I've played where I've been able to create a character that looks eerily close to what I actually look like, down to the clothing and, you know, like face and everything. So I enjoy that aspect of games, but there are most definitely times where I'm like, I'm going to gender swap because I'd love to kind of play things from different roles. Cyberpunk was that for me. I had a male V as my main playthrough, and I had a female presenting me as my second playthrough. And then I just kind of like, you know, I would swap back and forth and play through multiple ones just to kind of see, you know, what perspectives or dialogue choices come from that, if any. And I really just, you know, I think it's good to try a little bit of everything and be able to speak to it from that aspect.
I'm reading, so there's a lot to unpack with that. I'm reading Suddy's stuff. He's saying that for him it's never him and it's always unique to the game, because it's an escape, and depending on how he's feeling, he may change the play style depending on the day. So maybe it's a matter of representation, because I'm so generically white guy. Luke Lore is, right? Like, my hair is spiked, it's blonde, I'm pale, I'm male, and that is such a preset in every game, right? That is me. That's me. But it's even like what's the Bethesda version of me that people joke?
Oh,
something hero worshiper.
Is that what it is? The hero worship? Yeah, like, I'm so generic by the way of like video game presets that like that's never been a problem for me. Right. And so I guess maybe it was easy to be me in every game. Maybe that's the nature of where this is coming from. It's like, it's weird to say, but it's like, it's kind of true. So I mean, like, maybe that's a factor, but like I definitely think Starfield does something special with choice that not all RPGs do, because you can project yourself, and then when you cycle back into New Game Plus, it's like, were you happy with those choices? Now you can project something different, which is strange and weird. I don't know. I feel like you guys are laughing at me because I'm preset 3, but
I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing at all of the game developers that somehow stumbled upon you as a preset.
Let's spike his hair. Yes.
Like, let's give the Caucasian male blonde spiky hair, and we'll call that the dude bro.
I am quintessentially stuck in 2004 as our seemingly preset game.
Yes, man.
Yeah, you know. So guys, as we wrap up, I love Starfield in a way that I wasn't expecting to. I'm so excited for these mods to make their way to developers at Bethesda so that they can streamline some of the experiences. I'd love to see mechs introduced to the game, vehicles introduced to the game. I feel like this world is begging for an alien species, for mechs, for vehicles. That's the step that's not there that needs to be there for me to kind of make some of the planets more interesting, to make some of the interactions more interesting. But I love so much of what I've experienced that I'm patiently waiting for the next one. Like, I'm looking forward to that 1.5 2.0 style update, because I will absolutely go back, and I'll probably go back even when I'm done with Alan Wake, Assassin's Creed, Spider-Man, Avatar, Call of Duty, Sonic the Hedgehog, all of the ones that are coming out. Like, I'll probably will go back February or so, maybe, you know, like but I do love this game, and I think Xbox has something special on its hands here. Are you guys going back in now, or are you going to play some of these fall titles? Logan?
I'm definitely moving on for now until I can get some free time, because honestly, like, I still need to finish Star Wars. I still need to go. Wars? Yeah, I didn't get to finish Star Wars yet. Other stuff. I mean, for example, like, I kicked up a heavily modded version of Skyrim on Xbox recently, just to kind of see like where the modding scene was for that game after the anniversary edition. And the game looks really good with mods. I went through and got a whole list of the ones that people put guides out for and stuff. And I'm going to try and give Skyrim a shot, you know, especially if a lot of folks, you know, have so much reverence for it. It's been going for so long. there's something there. I haven't given it enough time, and after playing Fallout 76 and Starfield, I'm integrated into those systems and control schemes and talent trees and things that I won't feel overburdened from the get-go. And knowing that, I'm ready to go try out and see like why people love Skyrim so much, knowing that Elder Scrolls 6 is years down the line on its way kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Ellery, how about you?
I am very aware that I am privileged to have so much time to game. And so I will play this more. I think if I was only able to play a handful of hours per week, no, because there are so many games, not only that are coming out, but that my backlog is ridiculous. And so I will play this game more because I have the time to.
Mm-hmm. I suppose my final question in this realm is, do you think Xbox is going to see a long running tail benefit the way that Bethesda saw it with Skyrim? Do you think this will have the Skyrim effect, Ellery?
100%.
Really? Logan, how about you?
Yeah. And I think because it's on Game Pass, it's going to have more life than Skyrim did when people had to go out and buy copies of it.
All right. I think I'll be impressed when when you can play Starfield on like an Alexa or a fridge. Then I'll know.
Hopefully, it won't take 10 years.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, I want to. Oh, Suddy wanted to say he wants to experience it all. He is going to pick up Assassin's Creed Mirage and any games that his crew plays in multiplayer, but for single player, this is it for a while. Can totally understand that. Absolutely can understand that for sure.
Oh, man. Luke, one more thing. Sorry. Sure, Alexa, romance Sam Coe.
Okay. I don't swear on podcasts out of respect for Red Beast, but I'm thinking a lot of words for you right now. Just the worst character.
Sorry, were we getting out of here?
Goodness gracious. Well, first, before we do our exits, I want to thank every listener who's checking out this show. If you are watching this on YouTube later on, please consider supporting XEP at patreon.com/Xbox Expansion Pass, where you get some of these special shows, but really you're just helping us keep the lights on and the content coming. If you are one of our many patrons right now who is listening, thank you guys so much for supporting XEP. It means the absolute world and really does help in more ways than you probably understand. We really appreciate you. Ellery, you were the first community member to be part of one of our community episodes, which I really like. I think this is something we should do again next month for Forza or for Alan Wake or so. Like I like this format, this idea. This is fun.
This was really fun for me because I am in the Discord with you guys daily, and I feel like we're friends. We've never met in person. I came to this through your podcast, and this has been such an amazing community that you've built. And I've had so much. You two are the most amazing humans. I've had so much fun tonight. And so I hope other people are able to do this in the future. And you definitely have to continue to do this.
That was just the highest compliment.
That was the nicest thing ever.
Dang, that was really cool.
I believe that came from Sam Coe. I'm just passing along the information.
Oh my well, now I can't trust it. Goodness. Ellery, I would love for you to let people know where to find your unboxing content, your Pokemon content.
Yeah. So right now I'm kind of a crazy person when it comes to social media. Right now, I am only on Threads at Ellery Woods Parker III. I do have all my videos right now on YouTube are unlisted, so I don't have them set publicly. But I have talked to Logan about helping me set up a Twitch channel to start streaming some game playing. So that will be coming in the future.
That's cool to hear. Well, then I feel privileged because I've seen some of those videos and I love them. They're fun.
So I'm glad. Thank you.
There you go. Logan, where can people find you, sir?
I'm still in the Discord, but I'm also over on Twitter and Threads at CAPT_LOGON. as well as the Keelhauled podcast. Feel free to check that out if you like Sea of Thieves, or if you're interested in Sea of Thieves.
I love Keelhauled. Keelhauled's one of my favorites.
Oh,
and of course, no, I really love Keelhauled. And of course, Suddy, we appreciate you joining us in chat. That was fun. And shout out to everybody on Suddy can be found hooked on Up to Dialysis. Nice. that is the best plug, Suddy. Oh goodness. All right. You guys can find me on Twitter, Threads, and all these socials at Insipid Ghost. And of course, you're already listening to XEP, but feel free to drop it a like, follow, subscribe wherever you're not checking it out. So there you go. Have a great rest of your week, month. We'll see you next month for another Xbox wrap up. Take care, everybody.